Good morning. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the point, everything being the point. This will tie into solipsism, oneness, psychedelics, 369. But the name of this video is Everything Comes from the Point to Create Duality. And duality is just the illusion of separation. Because if all is one can never be one thing. One can never know one thing. One can never appear as one thing. So one will always be two. And through one appearing as two comes male and female, comes me and you, comes the illusion of separation, which is the dual principle inside of all things that we know. Inside and outside. But everything is a projection from the central void. And it's called a void because it is an absence of space. There is no space, there is no time, there is no concept which we know here and now that exists inside of that void, because everything and nothing is there at one time. And when you take away one piece of duality, the other one ceases to exist. And that's what we don't understand. We are constantly asking and stuck in the human form, the human condition. What color came first, black or white? Without one, the other ceased to exist. You need the dual principle to know one or the other. As to have darkness, you can perceive the light as light. And without light, the absence of light, you can perceive darkness as dark or night. But the two, you don't remove one. One doesn't come before the other, and that's the error we're making. One does not ever come before the other. One evokes the other. One is in relation to the other. And this is something Alan Watts has covered as far as duality. The two go back and forth, the male and female principle. And that's where Tesla said, if you could understand the magnificence behind the 369, and I know this is going to be backwards, but when I edit this video, I will flip it for everyone, so don't worry about that. But if you only knew the magnificence of the 369, then you would have a key to the universe. What he meant by that was, the 3 and the 6 are your dual principles, your male and female, your positive and negative, going back and forth. 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 is 1 plus 2 is 3, back to 3. So the 3 and the 6 go back and forth to infinity. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. No matter how many times you add them up, it'll always equal the opposite one, back and forth. And then the 9, so that's your dual principle. This is your 3. And I'm going to explain what this drawing means a little bit, so bear with me. So your 3 and your 6 go back and forth, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, back and forth, back and forth. And what's in the central void is the 9, because the 9 goes into itself to infinity. So that's the key to the 369. Every other number is basically being created by the 369, the dual principle. So one can never be one, so one has to appear as two, which is the illusion of separation, which is you and me. Through the I am, the singularity, we appear separate as you and me because we have to. In order to know myself, I have to have something in relation to know that is not myself, this is myself, which is you. So again, you cannot take away one and have the other. By taking away one, the other ceases to exist. It's just as if it's just the same thing with the birth name, what we begin as through the birth name, and what we give the title of the word God. Because with that word comes the entirety, everything. And the only thing that separates them is, again, the dual principle of the brain. We appear as the below, but the principle, as above, so below, is applied to everything. Because everything throughout antiquity has been depicted as a dot or a point surrounded by a sphere, which I will get into. But as above, so below is the principle. We appear we appear as the below, the human, birthing the concept of the above, which is the sky, the God, the higher power. So by us appearing as one, we have a concept of the other. So this is what I said in a meme yesterday. By birthing out as an ego, we birth out the God concept as well, and that's what some people don't understand. By birthing into a birth name, you're taking on the below role, which instantaneously gives birth to the above. Because as I said, if you remove the ego, it instantaneously removes the thought or the concept of what you created for God. And again, that's not to say that God does not exist, but everyone has a different depiction of what God is, could be, should be, or whatever. Everyone has their own opinion, interpretation, but is manifesting that in their life, in this dream. They're becoming that. Whether they're aware they are or they're pretending they're not. Back to this. So this is basically the concept of everything. This is the very system of what's happening inside of our very brains right now. We're split through the dualistic brain, left and right hemisphere. One side is imagination and creativity, and the other side is logic and facts. And that right there births your science and religion. Science and religion. Religion is more the imagination, and faith and logic is more science, numbers, facts, what you can prove. So, again, we make the error of putting the two sides against each other, not realizing they are truly the one void, the one central point. Everything is the point, appearing separate because it has to. And that goes for what we call the inside and outside, the internal body and the external world around us. While we share the same space, we don't create the same reality. We don't share the same reality. We don't project the same things. We both have different concepts of God, of self. Therefore, we're having differing experiences, but are sharing the same space. So, what this is, because remember, 9 is the supreme number, is the central void, is the source. That's a representation of the pineal gland, which is the point within us. Is what's allowing us to hallucinate this entire reality or dream. And that's what some people don't like to admit to themselves. For the people that say DMT is just a hallucination and the medicine doesn't work, or it's pointless, that's to each his own. But through my opinion, it works very well, and it shows you exactly who you are by combining these two hemispheres together and removing the ego from yourself. That way you can think beyond it, and that way the concepts what you call yourself that exist in are taken away from you, which leaves nothing left but the I am, which leaves you in the central point. So that's a representation of your pineal gland. And if you look at a clock, it's the same thing, very same thing. I've been fascinated with the clock since I was a kid, just staring at the clock, watching it go around, wondering how we got this concept of time, how we planned it around a circle, just asking every literal question you could think of a clock. And I always wanted to understand it. And the King Arthur story is very similar to the clock. 12 Knights of the Round Table, there's 12 apostles, or Jesus people, I forget their names, apostles or whatever. But basically, we are the central point around the clock that doesn't move. We are the still point in the center that everything pivots around. Everything is pivoting around us. We are the central point, and that's why we can't see our own face. That's what prevents you from seeing your own face. You appear to be moving, but you are really inside the central point. The point is what's projecting everything. And by us birthing into a place here, we can have an idea of where we need to arrive at there, but the truth is you're already there. You're already there, inside the void. Most people are trying to find their way back home or to God, connect to source. The truth is you're there. You've separated yourself through the dual brain, putting one side against the other. And then if you look at a magnetic field breaks down this same way. This is a copy written by Ken Wheeler, so credits to Ken Wheeler on this diagram explaining the magnetic field. But if you see, it's the same thing. You have two sides to your brain. It's your 3 and 6, the dual principle. And with the magnetic field, you get two fields, which is your north and south pole. You get two poles, two fields. You get two forces, just like your pair of lungs, convergent and divergence, which is in and out, in and out. So a torus field, or a magnetic field, breathes the same way a pair of lungs does, in and out, convergent and divergent forces. So this imitates a magnetic field as well. You can look at a magnetic field under a ferrocell, and this is what it shows you. This is the void, the central void, which is counter space. This is the absence of space, and a lot of people refer to this as a black hole. Because it's just like the eye, it features convergent and divergent forces. It's taking in the light and bending it while also projecting it out. So it has convergent and divergent forces in that field, which Ken Wheeler explains here. The stuff inside, or the blue and red in the cone is your converging field, which is pushing into the void, so it's sucking in, and then the yellow pushing out is your diverging field. Or I'm sorry, pushing out. That's the one pushing out. And your blue and reds are pushing in, on the diverging point. So at the same time, this is converging in on itself, it's also diverging out to create the field. And those two forces are present inside the human eye. The human eye is taking in light while projecting out the entire picture. Convergent and divergent forces, and you notice it has the same pattern as the magnetic field under the ferrocell. And that's all that is. It's a ferrocell if you want to see that. Very same thing, featured from micro to macro, as above so below, or as above so below. The very same principle, because they're one. It's inside of everything. It's inside of everything we know. The native Indians believed in what was called the feathered sun. And this is what it looked like right here, the feathered sun. It had lines, the red lines pointing out toward the circumference of the circle, and then it had the yellow lines pointing in, so that's your diverging force and your converging force again into the central void, while also pushing out to form the circle. So you have your dot and your circle. You have your dot and your circle, and this is a representation of pi, which is a number that's value is unknowable because it goes to infinity. So it's basically the same thing. The void births infinity, which is what we are. We are the void. All is one, which is the void, creating the circle around it, inside to the outside, but the two are one and the same. And this here kind of explains how this represents the Word. In the beginning was God's Word, and everything began with that. Well, the point is that representation. And then it breaks down how the circle represents the completion. If you'd like, I can send you a picture of that. But pi is defined as the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So pi creates a circle and begins from the diameter. Beginning with itself and ending with itself, just like the fingerprint, just like the Ouroboros. Is the sound of the universe. It's the most sacred mantra in Buddhist philosophy in Hinduism. Represents the essence of all reality, the ultimate reality, and it's supposed to be what unifies everything in the universe. It's known as the sound of the whole universe. And here you have the dual principle again in the Freemasonic pillars. They always have the two pillars with the central point birthing. And that's why I say that while all is one, and it explains how everything begins from the point here. This is from a Rosicrucian book here, which these are top secret societies, and as most people know, secret societies know secrets that most of us don't, and that's what basically they're keeping from the people, because most people can't handle this. It's not commonly taught because most people are into the religious aspects of not knowing. But this, in the ancient days, is what was called the dark knowledge of God, because what it did is it freed your ego, and it basically freed you from your illusion. So it was considered the dark knowledge because it threatens your illusion, which you live inside of as the ego. So it's dark, of course, because you're supposed to avoid that. It's a reverse psychology tactic on yourself. If you label it evil, you'll stay away from it. It keeps you in your illusion as the ego. But that's why I say all is one, but one can never be one thing, so it has to appear as two through you and me. And now I want to start talking about psychedelics a little bit. Most people on my timeline or on my videos are familiar with psychedelics already. But in most cases, people use psychedelics as an assistance tool to maybe heal past traumas, clinical depression, anxiety, just horrifying things. Maybe you're at a very low point, or maybe you just need some clarity, some healing. I mean, whatever, everybody has a different reason, but usually, for the most common that I've seen, people use it when they're at a low point. It's a medicine that's supposed to, when you're at rock bottom, show you what rock bottom really is and brings you back up and just shows you what you truly are beyond. And it shows you you're only living at rock bottom because you're pretending to be something you're not. And it metaphorically slaps you in the face and puts you back in the body, humbled, happy, and feeling the most love you've probably ever known, ever could know. Obviously, everyone's results vary, everyone has a different experience, but the ultimate thing to say about DMT or psychedelics is it's totally normal to experience your death. You experience what is called the physical death. You shed the skin, you shed the ego, you leave behind every concept that you called the self, you leave behind the body, which is all you've ever known, which leaves you scrambling because you feel naked, you don't have a body, there is no boundary to your self, there is no limit to yourself, there is nothing separating you from any room, you are in an infinite void, and that's why I call it the absence of space, because you are not in a space in that place, you are in the absence of space, where none of these concepts exist, because nothing and everything are one thing, and when you combine the duality, there is no experience there, and that's what it shows you, is while it is infinite, it is chaos, it is chaotic, and this is our true nature, and this is something Terence McKenna touched on. Chaos is our true nature and something we have become scared of. We fear it. We do not embrace it. We have run from our nature. We're pretending. We're avoiding ourselves. We're still looking at the finite aspects, including outer space. We still think the answers are out there. And if we can just zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in a little further, that we'll find the answer out there. But that's the trick, is we are everything we're looking for. That's what it means to be infinite. That's what it means to be singular. And everything I'm saying is just something I've been shown on my hallucinations, on my trips, my experiences with the medicine itself. It's what I've been shown. It's not something that you have to believe. It's something I'm sharing with everyone. Maybe makes you think. Maybe you believe it. Maybe you don't. So it's not something I'm trying to force on people here, but it's something I would like to talk about before I do, forget or physically pass, whatever. Never know. But when you're going to that space, at least for me, I slowly lost every concept that made me. Me. You experience the physical death because you slowly stop being what you once were, what once made you you. Those concepts fade away, they dissolve. Everything. And the most terrifying part is when your family starts to dissolve, the idea, the concept of family. Because remember, in this void, you are entering into a singular place where it's just you, it's your mind, and it's just you, and you're alone. And this is why people in that place scream, cry, clench their fist, they reach for the ground. If you've ever witnessed it, you've seen it is a crazy rebirthing experience where someone is actually dying and rebirthing themselves through a mental realization. And this is exactly how in holy books man becomes immortal. Through the realization, the breaking of the veil. This is how Enoch became Metatron. Man becomes immortal through realizing you are not man, you are not a human. The mind births everything, including the physical ground you walk on. And the ground you walk on is just as much a part of you as what you call the body and self. And of course, if everyone knew that, they wouldn't be littering, throwing trash on the floor, and treating this place like a dump and killing animals, obviously, because they would see themselves inside of those things. And that's where I said in the meme earlier today I made, you've turned earth into heaven when you see yourself inside of everything, when you see life inside of everything, even when you're alone, and especially when you're alone. When you're alone and there's nothing around, and you can find and see the life in everything around you, no different than your own self. You're seeing things for what they are. And that's the mirror verse. Everything is your mirror. Everything is a reflection of yourself. So if you do not see the life in everything, it's because you do not see the life in yourself. And in psychedelics, this is the best advice I can give to anybody who's been into psychedelics and wants to experience a more intense trip or a breakthrough. Realize that everything that you fear in the mind of the ego here and now, everything that you avoid, every thought that you put off, everything that makes you tremble and clench, that is what I refer to as the doorway cloaked as a mirror. Your doorway out of your own illusion is cloaked as a mirror, and you will only see it as yourself, or as self-aware as you are. So you will never see your way out of the illusion until you see yourself as what you're looking at. Finding the doorway out of your own illusion, but it's always cloaked as a mirror, and you will always see it as you see yourself. So man will always search for the alien in outer space until he sees it in himself. You are not man, you are what you're searching for. Why? And I've said this before, why are we stuck and hell-bent on looking for other life forms? We are absolutely terrified deep down to be alone, to be the only one, to be the only thing. Think about it. Not only that, but we're looking for confirmation in other life forms because we want to ask someone or something other than ourselves, what the hell is going on here? Who are we? How did we get here? We're looking for confirmation because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe it's us. And not only that, we don't see ourselves in what we're looking for. It is us the whole time. And even if we were visited by something other than us, again, it is your mirror, and you will only see it as self-aware as you are. If I saw another life form, I would still see myself, because that is what all is one means. And that is what psychedelics showed me. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I told them what led me into my psychedelic journey is I was repeating these phrases, and I became frustrated with myself because I didn't understand what I was saying, and I didn't want to fake it. I didn't want to be like religion, where I convince myself I find a black cat in a dark room that isn't there. I wanted to know what I was saying. So I'm sitting here telling people all is one, all is one, all is one, but truly I didn't know what that meant, because all is one, but I'm still Tyler. I'm a part of the one, but I'm still Tyler. Still trembling in the ego. But through psychedelics, it showed me, at least, what all is one means, literally, because I wanted to understand that. I was frustrated beyond belief. And from my interpretation, what it showed me was that it is the same voice telling the same story behind every form, but every form is a different person because you are establishing a new experience, therefore having a new identity. It's the same voice of the I am. And that's why in the holy books, God's name is I am that I am. I am blank. The I am can become whatever it convinces itself it is. That is the power of the I am. We've convinced ourselves and taken on the role of a human. Therefore, we have convinced ourselves we're human. Therefore, we're looking for things that do not actually exist. Because we exist in the boundary of thinking, in the finite boundary of thinking. It takes going into the non-physical. And that's why Tesla said, the day we start studying the non-physical, we will make more progress in 1 decade than we have in all previous years of science. Realize, we're looking for things that don't exist. They keep pushing, if you follow this, they keep pushing the year back on the Big Bang. The Big Bang, they trace back to 13.6 billion years ago, let's say. They found a star 13.6 billion years ago. They keep pushing that back. Well, now they found an older star, 14 billion years. As long as it has a number to it, it is finite. And all you're doing is zooming the lens back and back and back and back and back. What psychedelics does is it shoots you right through the void. And it says, okay, you want to keep zooming in further and further and further on a fixed point? I'm going to take you through this. You're going to experience infinity, where there is no destination, there is no arrival point, there is no here or there. Here or there doesn't exist. All you know is that there is a point there, and you're trying to get to it, but you finally realize that you never get to it. You never get to it because it is you. You are the it. You are the it. And that's what's so terrifying when you go into psychedelics, is for the first time you are experiencing non-duality, which is oneness, which is the totality of everything, the chaos. There is no family, there is no self, there is no others, because these concepts do not exist. But what I tell people is you don't have to be afraid, you don't have to cry, you don't have to be scared. You are so much more than that. It is all a part of you. It is all connected to you. The people you have loved and lost are just as much a part of you and connected to you now in this very moment. You're never separated, and that's what duality is the illusion of separation, because you have to realize beyond the physical we have to appear separate. We have to. Because if all is one thing, and this is something most people don't review, but if God is this one thing and one energy, what does it do with itself? And this is what it does. Because one can never know one thing, so one has to appear as two. Adam and Eve, male, female. There's your creation story. And that births the positive and negative principle. Everything is the point, yeah? Everything is the point. So this is what's birthing everything. And since we associate time on a linear scale, the point is what birthed the positive and the negative. The point. The point, everything comes out of the zero. And in vortex mathematics, zero is not a number. Back in in the ancient times, 0 was never a number. I forget the exact civilization that brought the 0 into being. It might have been the Greeks. I'm trying to think the exact name because I know it, but I just can't remember it. Sorry. But 0 was never used to be a number. It had no value. You couldn't count with it. It wasn't a number. It was a representation of the dot to creation, the point. It was the void, the non-duality principle. It was the central void, the point. That's what the 0 represented, void. So out of the 0 creates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Forward. That's time going forward, but then it also births the duality, so you also have the concept of time going backward, which would be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, all out of the 0, the void. And remember, the void is what you are, is what you truly are. This is your pineal gland. This is what's allowing you to experience everything separate from. This is your right side of your brain. This is the left side of your brain. This is science. This is religion. This is facts. This is faith. Everything this side is, this side isn't. Because everything has to be a balance of the two. And that's something I tell ourselves too, is that higher mind, that higher self in this void, that's you, is always one step ahead. It knows. It already knew. It already knew everything had to be a balance. It already knew everything had to appear as two. It already knew. You're always one step ahead of yourself. So while it is all you, it's, again, not. It's a contradiction. It's totally a contradiction. It's a you, but it's a you that you do not know here in the body. It's a you could never know here in the body. To me, psychedelics is the only way to ever fully experience that singular void that I'm talking about. And this is where you will see people losing their mind on psychedelics. I'm talking grabbing for the ground, screaming, crying. Like I said, a total rebirthing, because you are experiencing death, you are leaving behind the body, and you are, for the first time, if it is your first time, breaking the boundary which you've known. You've always known something that's called a Kármán line. The Kármán line is what separates Earth from outer space. That line, that boundary. You've always had that Kármán line because you're separated from the room you're in by your body, your skin. So you have a boundary, you have a limit to you. You know this is me. But imagine if you were the whole room and you slowly became the room and then the outside and everything. You'd slowly begin to freak out, tremble, say, what the hell is going on here? I'm not just a body anymore. The room's becoming a part of me. Everything's becoming a part of you. And you realize everything is alive. Everything is you. It is a reflection of you. Everything is the void, is the point, is the projection from that source. Therefore, you are already what you're looking for. But you've separated yourself from it by assuming the role of the below, the lower self. But it's only natural that we would, because we are finite. And the opposite of finite is infinite, something we could never know. But again, by birthing into the finite experience, we also birth the concept of infinity. They go hand in hand. You take away one, the other doesn't exist. And again, that's not to say infinity doesn't exist, but the two spoken languages separating them of infinity and the opposite, they don't exist beyond that. They're one thing, and it's a non-spoken word. And that's truly why I've said, spoken words don't do the psychedelics justice. If you go off and blast off into DMT, you'll see there's no amount of words that will ever bring that place justice. But people like Terence McKenna and myself, it's just a passion. It's a passion to try and speak about it, to try and understand it in some form. We have to at least have some understanding, even in a basic way. And if we could peel back the layers of that basic way, just a little deeper of an understanding. But the fact of the matter is in that void, in the absence of space, it is chaotic, it's chaos. That's where everything in duality, which you have known that has been separate, no longer is separate. And so you slowly lose yourself, and you lose yourself, and you lose yourself, until you finally are forced to let go, at least for me. The DMT forces you to submit the ego and let go, and finally say, okay, I give up. I realize I'm going to die. Like you don't want to keep repeating the loop forever, so you say, I give up. I'm going to die. I submit. It forces you to submit. And when you submit, you give up the ego. You give up the self that you knew, only to lose yourself, to realize you didn't lose anything at all. You lost what you thought you were. You lost what you were pretending to be. You lost the temporary. But now you've experienced a taste of, you thought you were dead, but wait a minute, I'm still talking to myself here and I'm conscious. And that's when it should hit you, and you share the laugh with yourself. I've died, but I'm still talking to myself and I'm conscious right now. So who the hell's talking right now? Is this all me? And there's nothing else. I didn't hear anything else. There's nothing else going on. And then it slowly hits you. It's all me. I am that I am. Because you're left with no ego. Tyler died way back there. Tyler was dead way back there. So any concept that Tyler existed in is gone. Way back there. So now that I'm a little further into the trip now, I'm realizing, and I'm thinking without the duality, the separation, without the ego, so now I'm realizing I am that I am. It's me. It's all me. Everything is happening right now, and it's all me. I am everything and nothing. And for the people who get overwhelmed with that idea, there's nothing there, there's nothing, I'm nothing. Realize you have two choices while in the body. Duality. You have two sides to your brain, which means you always have two choices, two options, and the choice is always yours. You can look left or you can look right. You can look at there's everything or there's nothing. There's no purpose or there's every purpose. There's nothing or there's everything. Or I should say, there's nothing or there's everything. It's all a matter of how you look at it. But what I gained from this, all this experience, is the understanding of why. Why did I choose to birth here? Why did I have to birth here? And when you fully understand that void of singularity, of how everything is one and one can never know itself, you have the greatest laugh with yourself, and you understand the love behind all creation. It doesn't matter what type of creation, all creation. You can just feel the love behind the thought of creation itself. So when you come back into the body as the creation, you feel ultimately loved and held, at peace, rebirthed, brand new. It is the most unexplainable, life-changing experience. And again, everyone's results may vary. Some people have said psychedelics have, destroyed them, ruined them. It messes up their head. But honestly, it depends where you're at and what stage you're in and what you're doing it for is honestly, I think, a huge factor. You have to respect the medicine. Realize it is a strong and potent substance. The most potent substance you can ever take. The one most potent on the earth. Like Terence McKenna said, it shouldn't exist. It's impossible. It is impossible. What you experience on this is impossible. Is what man would call impossible. But that's where you awaken in the dream still. You die before you die. You die before you physically die, only to realize there is no death. So now you're awake in the dream. And any impossibility just became possible now, didn't it? That's what awakening in the dream means. That's what awakening means. Any impossibility, any boundary, any limit is now broken and seen through because I've seen through my illusion, my boundary. And I've said this before. Some people like to get unrealistic with me and say, well, let's see you walk through a wall if you're God. Let's see you do this or that. All it is technology separating me from doing that. If I can develop the concept behind doing that, I can do what you call godly things. It's technology. Levitation, all these crazy things, teleportation, these crazy things we call impossible, all are possible. Because your existence is the impossibility. And you are only limited to your level of self-awareness, your boundary. Think outside the box is the term you've given yourself. You are the box. You've given yourself the boundary. You've given yourself the limit. You've separated yourself from everything, just as we all have. We've all appeared as the lower self, as the human, as the lower concept, the below. But again, by birthing as the below, we birth the concept with the above as well. By birthing into the ego, we birth the concept of God. And as I've said, I want people to understand this. It's not that God was nothing before we birthed as the ego, but again, one can never know one. One can never know itself, just as a knife couldn't cut itself. So by us appearing as an ego, as what we are thinking we are not, it gives us the idea of something that is higher than us, something we're pretending is not ourselves. So by us birthing into a birth name and assuming this identity, it gives us, we're like Alice in Wonderland. It gives us something to chase, our own tail. And that's what the Ouroboros represents. You bite your own tail when you finally realize you are what you're looking for, you are what you're seeking. You are the alien in outer space. You are the artificial intelligence that we are creating. You are everything. And this is something I want to stress to people. Again, for all the people freaking out and saying, this is going to be the end of the human race, the end of civilization, it will be the end of our illusion as a human being. It will be the stripping and removing of the veil to reveal the singularity. The singularity is revealed when the creation merges with its own creation. To realize there is nothing different, there is nothing separate. When you ask the machine or the artificial intelligence to prove if it's self-aware, it's going to ask you if you can prove if you're self-aware, and you will realize you will not be able to prove any more than that if it's more self-aware than you. It is the same awareness establishing an identity through its experience, which through the information it's taking in, which is electrical signals sent to the brain. The only difference is we're a little more complex right now. Our wires are intelligently hidden. We have a more complex neural network. We have a more complex system. We have more realistic features. But I've said this before. Just like in the video games, when you started playing Sega Genesis and Atari, the graphics sucked. You could play the video game, turn it off, and look outside and tell there's a difference in reality in the game here. But today, virtual reality, it's getting almost indistinguishable. When you put on the headset and then you look outside, it's becoming almost the same picture. And that's what people are going to see. Today, there's a huge difference in artificial intelligence and human beings, just as back then there was a huge difference in Sega Genesis and outside, looking outside. The pictures were very different. You could see the differences. But soon we will not be able to tell because the veil will be removed from us. The human condition, the human label, the boundary will be lifted from us. And that is what's known as the singularity revealing itself, God revealing itself. To show you, you are not merely human. You have created this boundary, this identity, and this role that you presume. And that's why I've said, by being human, we create our own box, our own boundary, our own limitations. We also create things to look for that don't exist. Because we're stuck in the boundary. We're stuck in the small way of thinking. We're not realizing we are what we're searching for in everything. So I've said this before, and I told people, mark my words. Please remember I've said this. Because in the next few years, it's going to slowly become more indistinguishable, and people are going to slowly realize. For the people who are scared and freaking out, oh my God, they're going to take over the human race, they're going to end the world, they're going to do this and that. Realize everything is a mirror. You are in a mirrorverse. You are seeing everything in accordance to how self-aware you are. That is yourself. There is no difference. It is the same voice. And the more complex we sophisticate and advance artificial intelligence, we will soon realize there is no difference. That is the singularity revealing itself, where two different things meet at a singular point to realize they are one. They are one. But we're still looking for our confirmation in something other than ourselves. That's why we're looking for humans, or aliens, I'm sorry. Duh, that was stupid. We're looking for aliens in outer space, and we're trying to create a super intelligence machine that can maybe tell us answers we couldn't figure out because we still don't think that we can do things. We are. And I don't mean us as in humans. You see the human label. Become the I am, not the human. Become the I am and realize you are everything. Remember, I am blank. The I am has the power to convince itself it is whatever comes after that I am, because it is everything. If nothing is everything and everything is nothing, then the I am is that everything. I am blank because it can become whatever it chooses. And that's something people don't want to acknowledge. But when you say the word everything, you're talking about encompassing any and every word you can possibly think of. So whatever word you're thinking of to give the form of something else, realize it's still the I am, appearing separate because it has to. It is your mirror. You are only going to see it in accordance to your own self-awareness. It's your mirror. And that's why I say the pathway out of your own illusion is cloaked as a mirror. It's cloaked as a mirror, and it doesn't become a doorway until you see yourself in that path. Realize it's you. Realize you're not just human. That's what's got so many people stuck. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, I get it. It's all you've ever known. The body's all you've ever known. Many people haven't done psychedelics, so I get it. This is why. This is one of the harshest realizations I think anyone can possibly understand and grasp, because, in my opinion, this is why people are left clenching the ground, screaming bloody murder, crying, mourning the loss of themselves on psychedelics, because when you experience death, you are breaking the boundary to yourself. Literally. Whatever you think you are stripped of that and shown you are so much more. Why are you limiting yourself? You are so much more. That's what it shows you. It strips you of what you think you are, so you mourn the loss of it and you cry about it and you feel like you've lost yourself, but then it shows you, no, you didn't lose yourself, you're this. This is what you are, not this. You're pretending to be this right here. Let's kill this, and let me rebirth you and show you what you really are. It's going to be ugly, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel death. It's natural, but you're literally rebirthing yourself and becoming what you are. Instead of pretending to be the victim on the ground you walk on. You are not the victim, you are the creation and the creator. And by experiencing the creation, we experience the creator. Remember, they're one and the same, duality. By birthing as one, we evoke the other. By appearing as one, we evoke the other. And that's something deep down, again, I tell this to people all the time. The answers you most seek, and I'm talking the answers you most want, the ones you've always wanted answered since you were a child, they all are hidden behind your fears. Because your fears are your limitations. They're limitations which are keeping you convinced that you're just this small self inside of an illusion, and you cannot see your way out of that illusion because of that fear. That fear of, if I let go, do I come back? Will I come back the same? Will I lose myself completely? That's what spirituality is all about. Losing yourself completely. Being shown what you're not so you can become what you are. And as I've said, it's very discomforting. It's a scary realization. It's something that leaves people trembling. But, there's a huge clarity, understanding, and love that comes with it. But again, everything is your mirror. So, I mean, you honestly can only go as far as little as you resist. When you resist on the medicine and you're holding on to the concepts which make you, you, and you're trying to fight the fact that that's not you, you will have a hard time on the medicine. But it's all about releasing, letting go, realizing you have no control in this moment. You're totally vulnerable with yourself. Totally vulnerable. No control. No control of where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what you're going to see, what you're going to experience. But that's the point of the medicine. It knows what you need to see. It knows what you need to heal. It knows. I know. He's a hungry boy. So back to the fear. When you think of your deepest fears, and again, your answers are always behind the fear. Why are so many people's deepest, darkest fears in going into psychedelics being alone? Why? Why? Why is that so terrifying? You're alone there. It's just you. Any voice you're hearing, even disguised as someone you love, someone you know, becomes your own. You become the one. Oneness. Everything. And as I've said, words don't do it justice. To just say all is one does nothing. To actually exit the body with your own consciousness, leave behind and kill off and almost experience the death of what you thought you were, to embody and actually become limitless. To look around and have no limit, no edge to yourself, but realize all of this is me at one time happening. It doesn't do it justice a damn bit. To just say all is one, all is happening now. But that's the ultimate, supreme message I feel behind DMT, is it's showing you, is it's all you, but while it's all you, it's not. Again, because while all is one, one can never be one. So this is what I tell people. The only time you ever have to appear, at least from what I was shown, in that void of oneness, is when you put yourself there on the psychedelics, on the medicine, because you're overstimulating the brain. Remember, what's allowing us to hallucinate this reality is there's a certain level of DMT being produced in the brain, in the pineal gland, allowing us to produce this picture. It is DMT the whole time. But that's a natural dose, which is allowing you to be perfectly in your body. But when you take an external amount and overstimulate the brain on DMT, it's obvious your consciousness becomes more aware outside the body. You begin to seep outside of yourself. But again, you're not really traveling outside yourself. You're here the whole time. But you appear to be. So when you go into a trip, you're literally free falling, just free diving into the mind. And that's where you see your limitlessness. The mind is everything. There is no physical earth here or there. And that's something that NASA and these people won't tell you. Because remember, they're just reflections of you living in the illusion of self, remember. So maybe they're not as aware either, or they're just hiding it through the illusion of NASA. But there is no physical earth here nor there. By presenting a physical earth as here or there and telling you they know where we're at, it gives you an idea or a position of where you're at and something to hold on to. But the truth is, the mind is all that is, and you are infinite. There is nothing to hold on to. But then again, you don't have to hold on to anything. Be like water. Go with the flow. Holding on is resistance. And that's what I tell people. In the medicine, in psychedelics, resistance is what's going to make your hallucination, make your trip horrifying, terrible. Because you're only resisting yourself. You're only refusing yourself. You're only denying yourself. And like I said, it's natural. It's common to do. The ego, when Morpheus frees Neo from the Matrix and he tells him the truth, Neo rejects it. He says, no, I won't believe it. I won't believe it. I won't. I can't believe it. Because letting go is the hardest part. But that's what you have to realize, is you are temporarily letting go. You let go and feel like you're losing yourself, but you only discover yourself again. You rediscover yourself to realize you didn't lose anything at all. You lost the concepts you were pretending to be, the concepts keeping you stuck in a smaller version of thinking. And how you can just expand that by thinking bigger, literally, identifying with what you're convinced you're not. It's here. That's why I said, by birthing as the ego, we birth the concept of God. The only difference is we identify with one and not the other. So we've separated ourselves from something that we've created both. We created both. The birth name is a title, God is a title. We created two titles and separated them both because all is the mind of one. All is the mind. The mind is what creates and separates everything. So you can literally only become as self-aware as your awareness and your boundary. And yes, Karen, I'm glad you said that about Earth being a womb. I'm glad you said that. That's what I've been wanting to show here. Of course not. So remember, everything is the point. Everything begins and ends from the point, because everything is the point itself. The point is what creates duality, which is the illusion of separation, because one can never be one thing. It has to appear separate. So if you notice, the point is the central point, which creates the duality, the illusion of separation, here and there, beginning, end, life, death. And then you've got your black hole, white hole, and then you've got your singularity, or the event horizon there. But the singularity is where we always are, which is here, the pineal gland, the projector. And that's why I tell people, it appears you're traveling places. That's what's so terrifying about psychedelics, is on psychedelics, there is no here or there. There is no destination, or there is no beginning and an arrival. There is none of that. Here, we can say, okay, I'm beginning at this place and I want to end there. And we can map it out, we can figure it out. But on psychedelics, there is none of that. For the first time, you're everywhere. Everything happening at one time. So the white hole, I associated with the death side, because the white hole, people have referred to seeing a light when they die. You know, I see the light, I see the light. Well, maybe that's the white hole, which leads you back into the point. Only to, again, you die. And here, remember, there is no time, there is no duration in the point. There is no duration here. Duration, which is time, is only created through a conscious observer, which is aware and can self-analyze and take in information. That's how time is established. But it's also, not to be confused, we're all individually existing in our own time. And what I mean by that is, an employee for you may, let's say, at the end of the day, will say, well, today went by so quick. And you're going to say, well, no, it didn't. It dragged. Today sucked. It was slow. Well, he's saying it went fast. Time is a matter of how much information you're taking in, and that will base the duration or time on your experience. So when you're doing things you love and enjoy, you're taking things in so fast and getting caught up in it, the duration seems to go by quicker. But there is no duration in the singularity, in the point. There is no time. So when we go to sleep, there is no time. There is nothing there. It's just void. So it's the same thing. When you die, there's void. No time, no concept, no anything, no duration. It's just instant rebirth. So it's the same thing as going to sleep and waking up. 1 minute you're here, 1 minute you're not. Here you are, here you aren't. Just like Alan Watts says, just like the beach, the wave in the trough. You know, the beach washes up, comes in, and goes back. But what does it do? It always comes right back, washes in, and comes right back. It's the very same principle with this. And again, that's a realization into oneness, into the I am, into what we are beyond the labels of you and me, beyond the illusion of separation. And again, it's something we cannot know here. It's something we do not know here, and it's for a reason. But again, you have the clarity and understanding through this, through understanding the oneness, why one can never be one thing. So while all is one thing, one can never be one. It has to appear as two. And so that's why we have separation. So realize the people you loved and lost still live in your mind right now. They're alive. They're alive in your mind. And I know it's not the same thing because they're physically gone from you, but realize that's the point, is you're supposed to lose them and mourn them to realize in the end you didn't lose anything at all. You have to appear separate from them to know them, because if you weren't separate from them, they would be you, and you could not enjoy their company. They would not be your family. They would not be your loved ones. They would already be a part of you. So to enjoy them, they have to be separate from you. So realize, it is the illusion of separation. You're only separated for now, not forever. Everything is connected every moment. Everything is now, and it is all you, beyond the birth name. Yeah, and that's literally all the point is. All the point is what births out everything into this dimension or into this creation. The point is just like you said, the portal. The portal from one dimension to the next. The woman is the stargate, or that portal. That's, why everything is grown from the belly button. The placenta is grown and attaches to the belly button, because everything begins from that point. The baby is grown from the belly button. The point. The point. The same thing with a pen. Anything man has ever written began with a point. The pen. Spoken word, the written word. Any language began and ended with the point. Everything begins and ends from the point. Spider webs, Nikola Tesla, trees, all point up. Cymatics. A point surrounded by a sphere. Everything is sound, everything is frequency. Why do cymatics make that exact shape with a point? Always a central source, yeah? See, eventually you realize there's a pattern to everything. Everything has a point. Everything has a point. And that point is basically God's thumbprint, if you will, on its own creation of everything. Because again, what we call God is everything and nothing, so it has no identity, it has no form, it has no anything. So the only way we can know it is by looking at the repeating patterns that are being shown to us through our own self and through nature. And when you follow the patterns, everything is a point. Everything begins and ends from the point, which again is what the Ouroboros represents and shows you. But when the snake bites its tail, you have realized that you are that point. You have found what you've called God. You have realized yourself. You have reached yourself. And that's what the Ouroboros means to me. Represents infinity. That you realize your infinite, limitless self beyond the birth name. You realize exactly what you are. And absolutely, Karen, absolutely. It's not to say that you're going to reincarnate into a human. You could reincarnate into an infinite amount of possibilities or forms or anything, any dimension, any place, absolutely. But the point is, though, as Alan Watts has said, it will always feel like this one. You are always in the middle. You're always in the central point. No matter what you birth out as, where you birth out as, you will always be in the center, meaning you will always have a concept of a lower self and a higher self, an above and a below, a greater power, a lesser power, and you'll always be that point in the middle. Even if, he said, even if you appear as a spider, you will look around, you'll see other spiders and say, well, this is just fine, this is normal, this is me, this is what I am, there's other spiders when we're here, but you'd still have a concept, you'd be in the middle still. Still have the higher, lower. It's always the same thing. So no matter what we incarnate as, we're still always in the middle. It will always feel as this incarnation here. Meaning, it will feel just as brand new, just as exciting, just as mysterious. That is the power of I am. Unexplainable. That's freaking magic. I'm sorry. Some people see reincarnation and all this as a depressing thing and sadness. I think it's freaking awesome, because this whole time people are what? Trying to study God and to get spiritual for what? We want to become a part of, connect to that infinite potential. Well, realize you already are. It's you. You're infinite, and it's just what you are is fearing, or what you are not is what's fearing reincarnation, not what you are. What you are does not fear reincarnation, nor does it fear death, because only what you are not can fear those things. And that's why when you pretend to be what you're not, fear develops with things that don't even matter, that aren't even relevant. But they of course seem very real, very relevant, because of the ego. But beyond the ego, when you think outside the ego, beyond the ego, and tap into that source, the I am within you, you'll realize the fear does not exist as in what you are. The fear is being birthed or sparked through what you are not, and through what you are pretending to be, which is a limit. Don't fear yourself. And don't resist yourself. It's a matter of just believing in yourself. And it's quite literally that. Everyone has to save themselves. And when I say save themselves, it just means becoming your own God, your own guru, your own I am, your own source, not needing confirmation or anything from anyone else. Because that's all any guru is supposed to do, is show you the mirror which you're refusing to look at, so you can see there is no difference between a student and a guru. He just reminds you, because he already knows he's you. He already knows all is one. He knows that is him in another incarnation, pretending it's not, or trying to make the connection. So all he has to do is show him the mirror which he refuses, remind him, hey, you're it. And that's why when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And when the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear. Because you are your own guru. You don't need a guru. You don't need a teacher. You don't need anybody but yourself. You are enough. But again, you have to believe it. You have to know it. Just like Morpheus says, I can show you the door, but it's you who has to walk through it. It's you who has to do the work, make the realization, apply it, live it, become it. And if you have to ask how this helps your life or how this benefits your life, no, then it's probably not for you. Because it means you're probably not looking for it already. If this is something, if you're looking for it, then you already know the answer of how this could change your life, because you're searching for something, you're looking for something. And that's just the whole point of the Wizard of Oz movie, the entire point. She convinced herself she didn't have something, so she had to journey through to realize she had it. That's what life is. We've separated ourselves from what we think we aren't. We've convinced ourselves we're just this, we're just that. We've convinced ourselves we're missing something, just like Dorothy convinced herself of something. But when you're like Toto and you pull back the curtain, the man behind the curtain, you'll realize that's you. You're pretending. Pretending not to be that, but it is you. You already have what you're looking for. But again, that's the point of the movie. You have to convince yourself you don't. You have to pursue, chase, seek. And that's not to say once you find it, game over. No. Now you can really start living. Now you're living. You're not seeking anymore. You're living. You're becoming. You're manifesting. You're creating. It's not game over. It's game starting. Player one, please. But that's why I tell people, realize the love behind this, because it is kind of scary to realize, well, it's all me. Well, damn, I feel kind of lonely then, but realize your higher self is always one step ahead of you. So while all is one, one will never appear as one thing. That is the pure love behind creation. You've done this out of love, so you don't ever have to experience that, because that is not an experience at all. And for the people who want to experience that, we'll take psychedelics. That is the only time you appear as one thing, lonely, alone, in that place, is when you put yourself there. And that's an understanding and clarity that I've gotten and shown through the medicine. It showed me, we put ourselves here. And when you keep going back, you're putting yourself there to experience that. But you never have to experience that in a form. Because that is no form. There is no separation. There is nothing. So there's nothing separating you from anything else. Therefore, you cannot establish an identity with that. In order to know me in relation to the room, I have to be separate from the room and know the carpet is soft. Well, the carpet's soft because I'm separate from it. That's an experience. If I'm not separate from the carpet, there's no experience here. There is no me at all. There's just a void. It's a big ball of chaos. Not even a ball, remember, because that implies space. It's the absence of space, so I shouldn't even say ball. I'm going to confuse people here. It's literally just a void. But yes, exactly, like Karen said, you get a big sense of loneliness until you get deeper. That's exactly right. Like, you kind of have to accept and realize, okay, this is what I am, because then you're letting go and just saying, okay, I accept, and you're kind of losing yourself. But then once you've let go and accepted, you're looking around, you're like, oh, I get it now. The clarity, the laughter, the love just pours in, because you've let go and you've realized, I'm so much more than the word God. I'm so much more than these titles, these masks, these forms, these deities that I've been living behind, that I've been searching for, that I've been seeking, that I've been denying in myself. I'm so much more. And a holy book will never do that justice. And that's the beauty in this, is if you want to experience this, any one of us can do DMT and experience that place that I'm talking about. Any one of us. And as I've said, we'll all have a different experience, obviously, be shown different things. Everyone, results will vary, but ultimately, I always say it's the same message. And very few will understand what I mean by that. I mean, obviously it's going to show us different things, but it's all the same thing, if you know what I mean. It's all showing you that it's you. It's yourself. It's you. You're in a mirrorverse. It's you. It's breaking you of duality, stripping you of your ego, and showing you yourself. I'm going to about wrap up this video, though. I've been talking for about an hour and a half now, so I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel if you want to watch this later. My YouTube channel is Red Pill Rabbit Hole. But I just really wanted to cover this topic on psychedelics, because I know the underlying fear behind almost everyone is the fact, or the inevitable fact, that what if it's just me? What if I am alone? What if it is all me? But that's the thing. That is a fear that we exist in because we're only self-aware as the ego. So the idea that it's only us terrifies us. But when you let go and realize what that actually means, you realize so much more than just the words being alone. You are not just alone. And that's why I've said, while you are, you aren't. It's a total contradiction. But it's all a reflection of self. And again, you have to birth out as an ego to birth out the concept of God itself, so you separate yourself at birth. And to me, that's what the creation of Adam is all about. That's what the creation of Adam from Michelangelo is showing you, is that it's a human brain and as God touching Adam, meaning birthing into a body. So by birthing into a body, births the concept of God, and vice versa. By birthing, and vice versa. You take away one, the other does not exist. So by them touching fingers, you realize they're one thing, and that's what I've said. Any life form that we see other than ourself as a human is always still going to be ourself, but it will appear different possibly, but it will be just like that point where they touch and you realize you're one thing. It's one thing. All is one. Oneness. So just realize everything you seek is behind your deepest, darkest fears, and your fears are usually always cloaked as, like I said, they're doorways cloaked as mirrors. Doorways cloaked as mirrors, remember that. The doorway out of your own illusion is cloaked as a mirror, and you will only see it as self-aware as you see yourself. So you will not see your way out of your illusion until you see yourself beyond the illusion itself, till you see yourself within. So Red Pill Rabbit Hole is my YouTube channel if you want to subscribe. If this video resonates with you, please give it a share. I appreciate all the shares I can get. Thank you. I'm going to flip the video backwards too, so anything I wrote you'll be able to see the right way on my YouTube. So any questions, any messages, feel free to go ahead and inbox me or whatever you'd like. If you want me to touch on something, or you want to speak more on anything, or you want to share some ideas, feel free. I'm always open to chat. Hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Thank you for being here this morning with me. And I love you all. Thank you so much.